Welcome to r/TalesFromSecurity, where we share stories of physical security, loss prevention, protective services, and anyone in general who gets paid to watch people, etc. And the first story is, entitled Dad Almost Comes to Blows with an Armed Security Officer. This happened back in 2017, when I was working as a security officer at a high-end golf course. We'll call it Fancy Golf Course, FGC. It was only a summer gig, but it paid well, and it gave me something to do for the summer while school was out. I had a really nice uniform, got handcuffs, and they even paid half of the price for my firearm, a 9mm Ruger SR9. They were very good to me up until I was laid off because of major budget cuts. Mostly my job entailed dealing with drunk golfers, breaking up fights, keeping kids that thought they could fish in our water hazards off the course, the usual. Now, something it must be said about this course, it was extremely high-end, as you would expect, if they could afford to hire fully armed and certified security guards. Even though it was so high-end, it mostly catered to younger children. We had several kids tournaments on the course every month. And of course, when you get a lot of rich kids in one place, you're bound to have a few entitled parents show up. I was patrolling the course when I got a radio call from the pro shop manager, telling me that she needs me back at the clubhouse immediately. So I made my way back as quick as I could. I was in the middle of the course, so it took a good 10 minutes for me to respond to the clubhouse. When I finally arrived, I walked in to see a tall, lanky gentleman yelling at the manager. We'll call him Ed, for entitled Dad. Seeing me, he thinks I'm a police officer, since my uniform looks very similar to a police officer's from a distance. He comes over to me and tells me that he wants to press charges for harassment against the golf course and that they're not allowing him to rent a cart to go out with his son in this tournament. So I said, I actually work for the golf course. I'm a security officer. I show him my credentials. He then proceeded to tell me that I shouldn't be carrying a gun and that I could be arrested for such conduct, which I know is total BS. So I pull out my notepad and begin to take notes on what he's telling me. After I get his side of the story, I go over to my pro shop manager and get her side of the story. Here's the thing about this particular course. We tried to handle things internally and not get the police involved unless it was absolutely necessary. Why did they do this? Because they didn't want bad publicity. The course was sinking financially. It actually closed a year after I was laid off. Let's continue. Here is what went down. Pro shop manager, PM, entitled Dad, ED, me. Ed walks into the pro shop and demands a cart key so he can go out and watch his son play in the tournament. Pro shop manager says, sure, let me see your driver's license and credit card. We charged a $15 cart rental fee. He gives her his credit card, but not his driver's license, which is required by golf course safety policy. She tells him so and requests again to see his license. He also refuses the second request, and manager notices that the name on his credit card is a female, but the last name looked familiar to her. She glanced down at the blacklist and saw a name that matched the last name on the credit card. She asked him if he was this person. He denied it and said it was his brother. We have a very interesting way of blacklisting people. If we need to blacklist someone, we tell them that they've won a prize, but they have to give us their ID in order to receive said prize. We then take a photo scan of their ID, give them a small bag of free golf balls, and tell them that they've been blacklisted from the course for an X amount of time. Not really lying, but not the most ethical way of doing it, but it works. Anyways, she says, no, I'm looking at a photo scan of your driver's license, and you match perfectly with the man on the driver's license. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Ed completely loses it and begins screaming at her, calling her all kinds of names that I will not repeat, racial slurs. She's Hawaiian but looks Asian. You name it, he called her every name in the book. And believe me, working at golf courses almost my entire life, I've heard every cuss word you can imagine. She then says, sir, if you don't leave, I'll be forced to call security. He says, do that, I'm not leaving. So she picked up the radio and called me immediately. Manager told me that she was in fear for her life and called a member of the kitchen staff to come out and stand beside her. Now, this member of the kitchen staff should have had my job. He was 3 times my size and had the biggest muscles on a man I've ever seen. He placed himself between Ed and manager, silently daring him to do something stupid. I should also note that this kitchen staff member was a former prize fighter, so yeah, not someone you want to mess with. And right before I showed up, Ed threatened to have them all fired and said some very horrible things to the kitchen staff member and manager. When I walked in, like I said, he assumed that I was the police and tried to twist this story in his favor. When I went up to him and asked for his driver's license, he assumed that I was going to help him, so he gave it to me. I asked him to hold on a sec, and I walked over to the blacklist board and matched his ID up with the ID on the board. It was him, positive ID. There was a little note by his name, which said that if he was found on the course, he was to be arrested immediately for trespassing. I didn't want to do that, so I figured I would just get him to leave. I walked back over to Ed and handed him back his ID. I said, sir, unfortunately your name is indeed on the blacklist. Your ID matches. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. He screamed back, "What? My son and wife are out there on the golf course, and I want to join them to watch my son play in the tournament." I said, "I'm very sorry, sir, but I can't let you do that. You've been trespassed 3 times, and if I let you on the course, I could lose my job." He said, "Can you just take me out there and drop me off? Then I won't have to take one of your carts." I said, "Sir, I can't do that. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." He said, "I'm not going anywhere." Me, "Oh yes you are." I reach for my radio and call upstairs to the other security officer on duty and tell him that we may have a situation and be prepared to call the police. Ed doesn't like that and tries to grab my radio mic, all the while screaming that he's going to have me, the other security guard, manager, and kitchen staff member fired. He then points to my gun and says he's going to have me arrested for illegal possession of a firearm. I said, "Oh, it's registered to me. Here, would you like to see my registration?" Which I keep a copy of on me at all times, for instances such as this. I'm certified through my state to carry a duty weapon. Perfectly legal. No laws were broken. He demands to see my manager. Unbeknownst to him at the time, even though I look very young, I was the highest ranking and most senior security officer there that day. And I tell him so, pointing to my bronze badge. Any other security officer would have had a silver badge. I also pointed to the lieutenant ranks on my collar. He doesn't like that and takes me as being smart. He grabs me by the collar and begins to scream in my face. Now I've had enough. I took several defense courses while I went to the academy. One of the things they taught us to do was to use pepper spray, which we had to actually be exposed to in order to carry. Well, guess what? I pulled out my heck in a can. OC spray. Anybody who's ever gotten hit with this stuff will know exactly what I'm talking about. From my utility belt and put it right in his face and told him to back the F off right now. He said, "Oh, that's just an inert training version. You wouldn't be allowed to carry the real stuff." I said, "Grab me one more time and you'll find out." A small crowd is now beginning to gather, as we were both being quite loud. He seemed to ponder that and turned away, and I thought it was over. Oh, how wrong I was. He turned around with lightning speed and grabbed my collar again with one hand and made a fist with the other. This time I sprayed him in the face with pepper spray. He immediately hit the floor, screaming and crying like a child, rubbing his eyes and screaming at the top of his lungs. I called on the radio and told my colleague what had just happened and to call an ambulance and police. He did so and came down himself to see what he could do to help. We grabbed a jug of water and just poured it all over his face, which is the best way to relieve the burning that OC spray causes. All the while, he's yelling and screaming about how he's going to kill us and ruin our lives in court. We immediately put him in cuffs and told everybody in the cafe and pro shop to please wait outside until this scene was over. Now, this is the best part, for me anyway. Just weeks earlier, our course made an investment. It was an investment that probably saved all of our butts. What was this investment? Body cams. All security officers were required to wear body cams whenever they were on duty. We all thought it was stupid until this happened. The police arrived and they were about to arrest me when they saw what I had done and listened to Ed's story. Until I showed them the body cam footage. They then proceeded to take him to the hospital to be treated. And as I remember it, they ended up charging him with 2 counts of aggravated assault, 4 counts of trespassing, and 3 counts of harassment. When I got to meet the mom and the kid, they were very sweet, but were very upset about what had happened. Not at me, but just upset in general. I felt very bad for them, especially his son, who was very sweet and well-mannered. I'm currently not in security anymore. I am now an independent video production contractor, but I'm thinking of getting back into security for a little extra money. The second story is how to kill your liver and brain at the same time. The weekend from heck is over. This one took the cake. I responded to a call of someone knocking on random doors at some outdoor units. I show up to the area and have a group of people flagging me down. RP. There's this guy, clearly drunk or on something. He threw a chair at my windshield and cracked it. This guy has to go. Me. Yeah, I'll figure out his home. You want PD for the damage? RP struggles and thinks for a minute. No, I just want him gone. Me. What unit are you guys from? RP. Unit on other side of the property, like half a mile. The drunk guy says he's in these rooms right here though. Me. Got it, let's find him. By this time he had wandered behind the units. One of the group caught up with him. RP number 2. He's peeing on the building. Me. Of course he is. RP number 1. Aren't you gonna run and catch up? Me. No, he'll either fall over or give up. He's too drunk. He goes for a little sprint behind the building. As I turn the corner, he's already at the other side turning its corner. I caught up with him about where I came into this situation. Drunk guy. Albert, we will call him. I need to get into the GDMFing room, man. Me. Can I see your ID? I'll call the front desk and have them search. Albert. Sure, man. I got an ID. Of course I got an ID. Laughs. I need one to drive, dude. Me. Albert username here? Okay, I'll figure it out. I get on the phone and not a second later the RP and Albert are starting to talk and raise their voices. I chuckle at how I happened into this, trying to continue with my phone conversation. Front desk. Nothing comes up. Nothing in the area either. Those units are empty. I point to the RB and tell him to back up and head home. I got this. Me, Albert, what hotel are you staying at? Albert, this one, the Facebook hotel. Me, no, this is the Reddit resort. See my patch? Reddit resort. Albert, yeah, that's what I said. Red, holds back the vomit, resort. Me, pointing to room. This is your room too? Albert, yep, here's the key, handing me his debit card. After about 5 minutes of the same dribble, I'm getting frustrated and about ready to call PD, but I know they're backed up and it would be a while anyways. I wanted a quick solution. Me, Albert, you have a key, right? Let's go scan it at the front desk. I'll give you a ride. Albert, okay. We get to the front desk and I ask for the Reddit Resort key card. He proceeds to empty his wallet's contents all over the backseat of my car. Cards go flying, then mini bottles go flying. He gets them all out and hands me his credit card. Albert, just put card thing. Me, but you have a room, right? Albert, just use it. Put me in room. Me, we're booked out for the night. Do you want me to take you to the Facebook hotel for a room? Albert, that would be the SH, man. I take him to a different hotel, the closest one I could think of. The entire time, 5 minutes, he's mumbling about how his Uber trip from 2 hours away was SH and how his night sucks. He went from this to crying to laughing, to trying to get me to add him on Snapchat in just under 5 minutes. I think the username is Red Carp. We arrive. I pull up just before, where their front desk can see my marked car. I tell him it's his stop. He collects his things from my car, leaving behind a mini bottle of rum, and calls me Samsung Mungford or something and gets out of the car. I locked the doors and ran like heck. This was the most exciting call. Other bright ideas include removing unit's main door to use as a ping pong table, running over 3 stop signs and finding out the last one is concrete, DUI, and my favorite, claiming not to be underage drinking, with an underage ID in one hand, full handle of hard liquor in the other, and puking on the resort manager. Classic. Thank you for watching. Bye.